Hello, friends. This is Chris Duncan, the director of Texas School, and I'm joined by Ivan Duran, one of our Saturday instructors for this year, coming up April 25th, 2026. And Ivan, we're excited to have him. He's actually going to do a class bilingual in Spanish and English. So I guess I should say, Buenos dias, Ivan.
Buenos dias. Yeah, I'm so excited to have this chance to do a class bilingual. I think it's a great opportunity for for everyone to just come together. Sometimes we're kind of like divided, but I think this is gonna
Mhm.
be like a amazing class. Whether you speak English or Spanish, just come learn something, and then maybe even some Spanish. So there you go.
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, we're excited to offer this. As far as I can tell, this may be the first time Texas School has offered this. I know we've got a growing population in Texas that's Spanish speaking and bilingual, and so we're excited to be able to offer that to the community and help those photographers grow as well, the way Texas School does. So, um, before we get into further about your specific class and what you're going to teach, why don't you give the audience that may not know much about you a little bit about your background and your photography and some of that?
Yeah, just real quick, I'm based in Berkeley right now. I was born in Mexico. I came here to the United States when I was about 15 years old. And I think my journey is like many of you probably, where you have like this job that you just don't like and then just hate. And I don't know, every morning was like just so painful to go to this job. And I was like, this is gonna be me for like 40, 50 years. It was just every morning was just like so sad. And then eventually I found photography to a friend. He actually did weddings and quinceañeras. So he pretty much told me, hey, you want to come and I don't know, help me with my bags, carry my bags, and help me set up here and there. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that sounds, I can make some money, some cool. So I started doing that, and I did that for like about a year. And I was like, hey, I actually like this. This is pretty fun. I don't hate this like my job. So I started I started just like, I'm gonna do it myself, and I started to learn everything I could. And one of the things that helped me a lot to learn was like conference like this, because when you're first starting, you pretty much just don't know what you're doing, right? You only know what the other person taught you, but there's just so much to learn, especially if you want to go by yourself, like your studio. There's just you need to learn a lot. So, and of course there's online classes and all that, but the experience to be in a conference and to just like ask those questions to the instructor. And sometimes you learn something and then you go back home and then you're like, well, I kind of like forgot, right? Or you online the same thing, you don't know how to fix things. But I believe that just being there like so with someone, and
Mhm.
if something it's like not clicking, something is like not working, maybe your trigger, whatever it is, you can ask those questions, and
Yes.
you'll get that feedback quickly.
Yeah.
So that's how I think I was able to grow kind of like fast, because I went to all these conferences and I tried to absorb as much as I could, because like I said, I done something I hated for so many years. And when I found something I was like, this is what I want to do, I invested all my time and to learn and to really, master my craft. So that's
Yeah.
how I came to photography.
Yeah. Well, that's a fantastic story, and I think you're correct. It is probably the similar story to a lot of our students, and maybe some of them right now are in that job that they hate, and they're looking to make photography their new career. And so we appreciate having instructors that don't just share it; they've actually walked the walk. They don't just talk it; they've walked it too, and have that real
Yeah,
life
yeah.
experience. Yeah, and I agree. In-person education, there's no substitute for that. You can pick up a lot of things online and read magazines and blog articles and such, but being in the room with the instructor hands on and having that feedback is pretty invaluable, and it does help you grow at a much faster rate than trying to do it alone. So your class title, I will not try to read it in Spanish, but it's Creative Flash from Basic to Extraordinary. So kind of give us a little snippet of what students can expect in your Saturday class in those few hours that you're together.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like think back of like how I started, and one of the things that for me, and not just for me, I think for many people that starting, even when they're like seasoned photographers, I think one of the hardest thing to learn or to just get comfortable with is Flash, right? So I wanted to teach a class where Flash is the main thing, kind of like learning your basics, but from those basics making something amazing. I believe sometimes we overcomplicated things. We think like, oh, we need like 5 6 slides, especially in studio, right? We see all these crazy setups and we think, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't have that fancy light or that other modifier. So when I started, I obviously didn't have anything, but I want to recreate all these things that I see other photographers do.
Hmm.
So a bunch of the time that I spent a bunch of time in studio with very basic gear, even with just like like your regular flashes on camera flashes, those like 60, 70 watt flashes. I used them in studio. And when I first started there, people would never use those. People, they were like not considered studio flashes. And I
Hmm.
was like, what, that's all I have. That it's not gonna work. That was in my mind because that's what everyone was telling me. But then I started using them and they worked fine. So of course, it's not gonna be the same in some situations, but it's incredible how even those little flashes you can create something amazing. So this class is about that. This class is about taking something very basic, even just a small flash,
Hmm.
and have the ability to make something very creatively. Also, I think when I started, I saw all this. I travel a lot, like for clients that wanted to do a session and here and there. So having now I have a studio, but before I have to like put everything in my car and then bring my backdrop and then do all the whole setup in people's homes if they didn't want to come to like, I don't know, a studio I rented or something like that. And just having so much gear and so much things
Hmm.
around. So I try to like learn how to do the same thing with minimal gear depending on the situation. I think so. So I think that's also very important because sometimes in even in a wedding or an event, sometimes your main flash might not work and might not function, and you might have another smaller flash, and then you're stuck because you don't know how to use that one in this other
Gotcha.
situation. So that's one of the things that I've been working a lot to use one little, pretty much use whatever gear you have and try to do what the other person is doing. That's what this class is. It's about like don't limit yourself because you only have 1 or 2 flashes, right? Of course, we can always buy more, but
Yes.
knowing how to do that, I think that's a key because I mean we are photographers and sometimes we forget the battery, sometimes our equipment doesn't work, and then we just have to do it.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
that's pretty much about it. And of course, the creative part, I always love being creative and adding gels and adding like harsh shadows and all of that. So I think that comes naturally after we learn the basics of like use the flash. It'll come like easier once we learn. We can actually do this with like not overcomplicating ourselves. and
Right.
and yeah, the next thing is just adding little things here and there like gels or like little stuff to make it even more impactful.
Sure. So when you're just to be clear, when you're saying little flash, you're talking like the flash that you could put on top of your camera or take it off camera, like a
Yeah,
portable
exactly.
flash.
Just yeah, just the pro flash was like those 70 watts flash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great that, because especially if you're on location a lot, if you're doing weddings or quinceañeras, like you said, you kind of started doing, um, you need that portability for sure and that flexibility
Yes, yes.
and not carrying all that weight around with you. So let me ask you this: when people look at your class description and such on the Texas School website, there's some really beautiful styled imagery in there, like with models and amazing makeup and costumes. Is so? Are we kind of are you wanting to teach more that line, or is this like day to day in and out working, like doing weddings, quinceaneras, going to someone's office and doing some corporate headshots, that kind of work? Or are you wanting to lean more towards that really creative and styled artistic look?
Well, for this class, I want to give the students the opportunity to practice as much as they can because in my own experience, I think that's what we photographers that we are spending, the time to travel and things like that is to build our portfolio. Sometimes we might not have the photos or like the models to invest to put in our website, right? To start going.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's very important for people. So I want to give them as much opportunity for them to practice and to have those photos and practice at home, but I also wanted, because this class is very unique. It's not like a 1 or 2 hour class, and we
Right.
have a pretty good time. So we're definitely gonna learn a lot also. Like I'm gonna start my class by kind of like giving a presentation of what's the class gonna be about and how it's gonna, like progress, so that we're all on the same page and no one's like kind of like confused or anything like that. And then you also have a reference to take home so that you're not like wasting your time maybe taking notes. If you like taking notes, that's great, but you don't have to, because you can have that information after, so you can just kind of like
That's nice.
um, you know, experience the whole thing, and then just absorb anything that you need to bring home.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great bonus for sure. And you mentioned like lots of practice, so you're anticipating some hands-on time with the students as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely hands-on times. And I always like to share how, because I know a lot of people ask me, especially for studio, how do I get like, if you're starting, how do you get this crazy outfits, or like this crazy. So I'm gonna touch a little bit on it, like how to get your community and like your makeup artists and things like that.
Hmm.
That's why another it's I always keep going back to this, but that's why a big bonus is to be on these conferences is so important, because when you're starting and you want to reach to models or to like makeup artists, and but you don't have as much of like stuff to show them, and then you're like, they kind of like doubt, right? Because they don't know what you can do. But if you bring home or like a set of photos that you take in my class, you take in some other classes throughout the week, you have a big chunk of portfolio to share with not just
Yes.
your clients, future clients, but you're like the future makeup artists that can, help you create like maybe a vision that you have, or like, so always have those connections are very important, but you need to start somewhere. So I'm gonna share like how I do that, and how I work with like not just makeup artists, but like designers, and like and pretty much everyone that's involved to do this kind of shoots.
Okay. That's fantastic. And I know this is going to be bilingual, so some in English and some in Spanish, and it's probably going to be hard for you to even say what that breakdown is now, not knowing who your students might be. But I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Some of those Spanish speakers may be watching this or listening to this, so kind of talk about the flash units and stuff and that part of the class. And I'm going to nod like I know everything you're saying, but I'm not a Spanish speaker. But I want to give those that may be watching or listening to this Spanish just a little bit if they don't quite get all the English. So can you kind of give us a quick summary in Spanish for me?
Yeah, of course. So, esta clase va a ser espectacular. Es una de las primeras veces de hecho, creo es la primera vez que esta clase está ofrecida en Texas School. Va a ser una clase bilingüe, o será en español y en inglés. Creo que es una gran oportunidad para nosotros, a los que hablamos español, especialmente si no dominamos mucho el inglés, ¿verdad? De poder venir a una conferencia de estas tan grande y poder tener una clase que va a beneficiar a todos. Mi clase es especialmente en Flash, cómo crear, bueno, el título se los voy a leer, es Creatividad con Flash, transforma lo básico en extraordinario. Y básicamente es tener, hacer algo súper básico y hacerlo como empezar a crear un poquito más. Siempre cuando yo empecé casi no tenía equipo, casi no tenía flashes. Entonces yo siempre me enfoqué en los pequeñitos flashes que tenía, como el que le pones en la cámara arriba, y siempre me pregunté, pero ¿cómo puedo crear esas magníficas fotos que otras personas tienen si no tengo todo el equipo? Pero es lo que esta clase, una parte vamos a tocar, en que los flashes no nos limiten a lo que nosotros vamos a hacer. Entonces, esta clase va a ser en hablar de cómo tener cualquier equipo que tú tengas en algo creativo. Y es algo importante que nosotros aprendamos lo básico para poder luego hacer algo creativo. Entonces, en esta clase van a tener la oportunidad de poder tener mucho tiempo para ustedes practicar. Son tener modelos y ustedes van a poder tomar fotos y llevarse todas esas fotos con ustedes para que después las puedan editar y puedan también crear su propio portafolio, ya sea que quieran hacer eventos o bodas o solamente aprender un poco más. Tienen la oportunidad de llevarse todas esas fotos de regreso, y entonces van a tener mucha oportunidad para poder tomar fotos. Y bueno, básicamente esa es la clase de hacer algo básico y hacerlo creativo. y nos vamos a enfocar mucho en también cómo hablar a las maquillistas y cómo tener un grupo así para poder crear este tipo de fotos. Y no más en el estudio, pero también en eventos como en bodas, en quinceañeras, porque bueno, también yo hago bodas y eventos como quinceañeras, bautizos y todo eso, pero también estudio, entonces todo esto se puede combinar en los dos. Y básicamente pues eso es mi clase. Espero que puedan venir todos a la clase que será el sábado antes de que la conferencia empiece. Y pues sí, los esperamos. Recuerden que es bilingüe, no tengan temor en tomar la clase y espero conocerle a todos.
Gracias. I caught some of that, so I picked
Nice.
up some of that. So yes, so maybe I could pick up a little bit of Spanish in your class
There you
too.
go. See,
But
it's a two-way class.
yes, that's fantastic. So kind of one final question as we wrap this up. So if you were going to play matchmaker, like who's an ideal student in this class? Someone that's never used Flash, just wanted to use Flash. Are they breaking into photography? They've been doing it a while. Who do you think a good student candidate for your class would be?
You know, that's a very good question because I think just thinking of myself, right? I don't want to like generalize, but thinking about myself, even now that you know, that I teach and like I go to this conference as a speaker now, I even myself try to figure out what am I missing and or what if I'm feeling like kind of like down, I'm like, okay, I'm not even doing a lot of creative things anymore. I'm like not I don't know, I'm not understanding the business now that all this AI is coming up. And then, like, well, what am I missing in my photography, right? There's always something in someone who is an expert on that. So even now, I take classes. I don't want to be one of those people that it gets to the point where I don't even take classes. It doesn't matter for me, right? I just want to learn. I want to be, inspired by anyone, people who are just joining the speaker lineup or people that been doing it for like 20, 50 years. So to answer your question is whoever you if you think that you might need like some little inspiration to be more creative, or like you're still not like grasping like the fullness of like how to be creative, or like or you might be missing something, definitely come to the class. If you're one of those people who might just start Flash, don't be afraid to join, because I'm gonna start from like the basics, and you're gonna be able to not just learn the basics right then, but then practice them, and then
Yes.
have like pretty much kind of like a homework, like you bring home, and then you're starting doing something, because as a photographer sometimes it's hard to. It's not like when you go to school and you have like a class and then you have homework and then you keep learning. You have a textbook, right, to keep following
Hmm.
your journey. You just go to a class and you're like kind of like, okay, now what? But I'm gonna give
Right.
you I'm gonna give you kind of like a class where you can just progress and be like, okay, I'm like actually have an idea what I'm looking for, what I'm like trying to accomplish. So definitely anyone who is thinking about being more creative, or like thinking about like learning a little bit more about Flash, definitely come to my class. Definitely e- like I said, because I started doing weddings and events. All of these techniques and all this material that I'm going to bring to Texas School, it can be applied to those events and to studio photography, because I do both. Um, I think it's a very unique experience where you can apply these two things and ask questions about, well, can we do this here, or how can we do that? Because I've asked those questions myself all these years, and I'm happy to be able to share them now with you guys. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know the people of Texas School are excited to have you. I know we're excited to have you and to offer this class bilingual in English and Espanol for our Spanish speaking photographers or English speaking photographers. So yeah, I think you'll pick up something even watching Ivan work. So again, Ivan Duran is doing a Flash course, Creative Flash from Basic to Extraordinary, bilingual English and Spanish at Texas School on Saturday, April 25th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's still some space left in this class. You can go to texasschool.org. And if you can't make it for the entire week of Texas School, there's a Saturday only option. And if you're already coming to Texas School and you'd like to add Ivan's class to your education lineup, you can do that as well. So, Ivan, thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you at Texas School.